Them? They're doing it now.
Hey guys, so we're live now. We got the legend himself, Andre Cymone, Michael Bland, and myself. We're just gonna talk crap a little bit so we can have time to share this from all of our respective pages and get a chance for everybody to get here. At 7:05. So I'm gonna talk crap a little bit so we can have time to share this from all of our respective. Land. Okay, I have tagged both of you guys, both pages in the video. And so if you guys can share that, I'm going to start sharing it from my pages, and then we'll be ready when 7:05 rolls around.
Cool. Miho asked us if we would play one of Dre's songs during this time. I can't remember what song it was, but I was worried about copyright issues, so I didn't want to do it. But no, you're good. Yeah,
just to have a little background music while we're waiting on everything to get together.
Yeah. Sure.
So I've shared it to that page. There you go.
It's like a little tidbit of information. It should be a tidbit, but for me, a major part of this one of the songs that I did on this last album called Black Man in America. I don't know if you know, I'm sure you probably know Mick Murphy from The System, but he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine, and he and his wife came by when I was working on that song here in my studio, and and I was playing him just a rough of it. He said, "Oh man, I got something. Hook a microphone up," and he had to hook a microphone up, and he came up with the, "You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to be black in America." And he came up with that, and it was like, that's like when I was working on that song here in my studio, and and I was playing him just a rough of it. He said, "Oh man, I got something. Hook a microphone up," and he had to hook a microphone up.
Who's got the echo?
No.
Okay.
Do we know where that echo came from?
It's just somebody has their sound on when they're sharing it. It could be any one of us.
Yeah, I'm in headphones and got my sound all off. So
okay.
Yeah.
Let me just check and see how we're doing. Let's see here. We got Michael, we got your smaller account. Hey, Michael, you still got to share from your main account. Dre, have you shared it yet?
I believe I have. Catherine.
It's not showing up yet.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me just...
Okay.
Can you hear?
I don't need to right now. I'm just getting these links.
Catherine.
Okay,
Catherine.
You're good, Michael. You got both.
Catherine. Okay.
For everybody who can't see Michael, he always ends up blocked by something. That's he's here though. Michael's here. So we're waiting until 7:05 to get the discussion started, but everybody's here. You guys see Andre Cymone is here, Michael Bland is here, and myself. We already got quite a few people watching, which is great. I'm glad people are excited about this one. I know I am. So just waiting on
Oh, Mike Vigo's on. What's up, Mike Vigo?
So, we waiting on your wife, Dre?
It should be up. She said she shared it. So
I don't see it, but let me go. I'll go look again. Oh, she hosted a watch party. That works too. Ask her if she can just share it the normal way as well.
is there a way to share it the normal way as well?
What's up, Charles?
Oh, Charles Hayes. All right.
How you feeling, Charles? You doing okay?
You should just click him in here for a few minutes while we.
Well, he'd need a
Oh.
he'd need a link. Oh, Charles is sharing though. Thank you, Charles. So. Is that you doing all the drumming, Michael?
All the drumming. What drumming?
Somebody was playing a bunch of rhythms in the back.
I'm just readjusting my computer on top of this stand.
Oh, okay.
That
I heard somebody playing rhythms before. I thought
that might be great.
thought we was making some music in here.
I wasn't even thinking about music.
Let's see. Well, I'll tell you what.
Is this configuration gonna switch over?
Whenever, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's get rid of this of the logo.
People are already tuning in. You might as well go ahead and get.
How do I? There we go. Let's go. There we go. That's how does that look, Michael? With the new red logo, that looks pretty good, right?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So Dre's now shared it from the guy from the fan page. I think that's the fan page, right? Oh yeah, that's the big page. Okay, well, like I said, we want to wait till 7:05 before we start the official discussion, but we can do some unofficial discussion while we're giving everybody time to get here. What you got on your mind, Michael?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I got so much other random stuff going through my head, man. This is an escape from that. Just I don't really have any place to go right now.
Well, first of all, I'll shout out. I got my final shirt from Shop Typography that's got the names of all the black women killed by police, or not all of them, I should say, but at least all of the recent stories. So definitely for those who missed our Tiffany Hobbs episode, Shop Typography, definitely some dope merchandise from a black-owned company. And other than that, well, you know what? We can start a little early. I don't have a problem. You guys have a problem starting a little early, and if everybody comes at 7:05, they'll just be late?
No, yeah, not at all.
Okay, well, let me take down that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start early, or technically 2 minutes late if we go by the 7 p.m. start time. I'm going to introduce my co-host, one of my favorite people on the planet.
Yeah.
I was a fan of his drumming before I met him personally. And then I was a fan of him personally before I got to know him. And then I got to know him, and he lived up to everything I could have hoped for. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Bland, one of the best drummers on the planet.
Why you always set me up, man?
Because people need to know, like Jeremy said, like JT said, people need to know who we know. We're privileged enough to know Michael Bland, and other people.
My co-host, who's also a buster, we're all the way from Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know what you're doing there. You should have been done moved. Tremendous guitar player. Anointed Hammond player. A connoisseur of barbecue and other black I guess we can't claim barbecue, can we? We should be able to claim barbecue. Yeah, that's we're just gonna claim that for soul food. That's soul food too. That's black. We did that too. We taught America how to barbecue.
That's definitely true.
All right. Oh, whoa, Phil Lassiter jumped on.
What's up, Phil?
Ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman and a scholar, a positive nuisance in the universe, and just an all-around great guy. He's a survivor, COVID-19 survivor.
Wow.
Not many people believe it for some reason.
That's true, and it wasn't no light case either.
I'm gonna start calling you half dead Neuman.
Well, they told me. That's what they told me. So
you almost went, brother. All right.
But God had some things yet for me to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was one of them, but here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, the originator, Andre Cymone. Without Andre, it wouldn't be no Minneapolis crime.
That's that way.
Lord have mercy, huh?
I was trying to point to him, but the camera was reversed.
Oh, that's all right. Andre knows who he is. They know who he is.
Thank you.
Yes, great. You know you're the originator, man. you on the ground floor with a few other folks, but you was in there.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was there in the beginning. That's sure. I was definitely there in the beginning.
So, I don't want to reminisce too much because you got current events and things to discuss. You got a new video out.
Right.
That video is called The World is on Fire?
Our World is on Fire.
Our World. I'm sorry about that, brother.
No worries.
Yes. That video was intense.
Thank you. I just
then you get the Sly Stone vamp on the outro. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Please,
that was
get the club and some white dudes start singing along because I might have to do something. I might have to get active. Might be some smoke in the city behind Dre's track.
Yeah, no, I can see how you can say that. Yeah.
Tell me about, what made you decide you had to do it, man.
It was a song that I had written kind of a while ago. Me and my band have been playing it for, almost a year now. But my wife kind of brought it up to me and said, we should do something with that. We should put it out. And she's, pretty heavy into, doing videos and doing production work. And she's into dance and theater herself. And a friend of mine, fellow by the name of Burl Avant, they got together and conceptualized and thought, how do we create the anatomy of a revolution? Because in essence, that's what was going on, And the song was already written, the lyrics were already there. So it's just, they put their ideas together and, came up with the magic and we went back and forth and, but, we're trying to decide when to actually put it out because didn't really want to get in, step on what was really going on. Cause it was like, we had actually had it done while things were really going on already, but really didn't want to step on what was going on because it was so important to people. I didn't want to try to, seem like I was trying to, get involved with trying to capitalize or anything like that because it's such, I think what was going on was so powerful just in and of itself. People coming together, putting their life on the line, and not just Black folks, everybody coming together, putting their life on the line during a pandemic, and standing up and saying, you know what, enough is a freak enough.
Well,
yeah. So, it was important. It had to happen.
The video and the song, they're powerful, man. Thank
you so much.
And I know that's not your foyer into speaking about your experience as a Black man in America.
Yeah, no, it's, I go all the way back to, obviously, I go back further than that because my family was into politics and all of that. But, but when Trayvon was murdered, that's when I just said, you know what, I got to come out of, I guess I wouldn't really call it retirement, but I just hadn't done anything for myself. I was doing things for other people. And nobody was really speaking out on the issues. I just thought all these people that had platforms, so I put them on blast back in 2012, and I said, look, people with these platforms, people that I knew really well, aren't saying anything about the stuff that's going on. And they need to speak up. They need to speak out. I call out the NFL, the NBA, people that had, I'm like, look, you guys got platform. I wish I had your platform because if I did, I'd have people, beating down my door trying to shut me up. But they, you got to speak out about this stuff because it's going to wind up going to where it went. I mean, I saw it. I mean, I saw the writing on the wall back then. And the thing is that if you leave these things, without speaking about them and without addressing them, then they just become a bigger issue than they need to. And it's just we're at a point now. Everything happens for a reason, and it was past time for this to happen, because people, we need to change. I mean, I think, black folks have had power, major power for years and years and years and years. And I just, I'm one of those kind of people that I'm gonna push it. It's like I went to what was it? Jimmy and Terry invited me to their 10th anniversary launch of their record label, and it was out in Minneapolis. And
sure,
they asked me to come up and speak. I said, "You sure?" Because so I went up and I said, "Look, and I was because they had to wrap everything up by 12:30, 1 o'clock or something like this."
Yeah,
and I couldn't believe that they actually said that. I'm thinking, and finally I went out there and said, "You mean to tell me you guys got to wrap things up in a timely fashion when you guys are generating major, massive income to this state on so many different levels? Prince is, bringing massive, major income. All the different artists that come here and they're bringing Janet, telling who Prince is bringing all kinds of people. At the time I'd already moved because I had already had my run-in with I guess you call it the government and the powers that be, and I just didn't have the patience or the time to deal with their whole nonsense. So I was like, you know what, it ain't like there's not nonsense in California or in New York, but it's a different kind of nonsense, and you could still navigate.
Would you mind elaborating on that a little bit? Because people don't believe that Minnesota is what I keep trying to tell them. The polls are correct. Minnesota is the second most racist state of the union.
Yeah, no,
now,
I mean,
yes. Well, go ahead.
Well, it just depends on, there's so many levels and layers of just nonsense, racism. It's like it's all in the system, and I've had to deal with it on every level, whether it be, housing. I've had to deal with it, when I was growing up as a kid, when we moved, in the house that, obviously Prince came and lived with us. We moved into that house. Mm-hmm. The stuff we had to deal with moving into that, and even, having to deal with all of that, racism all in and throughout. And it's not to mention my brothers, both of my brothers, one being, set up in essence. It goes on and on and on and on. And me being stopped by the police, being arrested by the police a couple of times. It's just, having kids and having to go through that system, and, the child support system, which is a whole nother, you talk about a nightmare, that you don't want to get, a system you don't want to have to get into, that I'm not even going to deal with that, but that's a whole nother nightmare. It's just layer upon layer upon layer. When you talk about institutional racism, it's permeated throughout every aspect of the government, and it's not, and it don't discriminate on, what kind of Black person you are. If you think you got some sort of status or prestige, what they told me when they decided how much I was going to pay in child support? They said, well, Daryl Hall, he's a musician too. He pays X amount of money in child support, so you should pay the same thing. I'm like, whoa. When I write Sarah Smile, then okay.
Yeah, when I got that kind of money, yeah, sure.
Thank you. I'm like, and so that's what I had to deal with. It was, and then they told me in court to get a real job.
Oh man.
They said, yeah, it's like when I went to court and I was trying to explain to them my situation. So why don't you get a real job? Obviously, this music thing, it's really not working out for you. It's like, and I got held in contempt of court because obviously I said, I called the judge, who was a woman.
Uh-huh.
I called her out her name and said, you don't know anything about me and the kind of money that, I make for a lot of people. I've sent a lot of folks' children to college. Okay. So let's don't, talk about, you don't, you obviously don't have a clue. So, but anyway.
Well, thank God for last laughs, Dre, because
yeah,
you had a prodigious run, brother.
Yeah, well, you
It's
know,
still going.
yeah, I was gonna say, hopefully I'm not done yet, because I mean, you know,
No, we don't believe in that. This ain't the sort of thing that people like us quit.
yeah, no,
We keep doing it till they put us in.
yeah. Well, that's the other thing that's a misconception about, you know, music, and you know, I mean, people are under the impression somehow or another we got some sort of sale by, you know, date stamped on our, you know, something, you know, like, you know, because I got to tell you, man, as far as a writer and an artist, I'm probably better than I've ever been in my whole life. You know what I mean? The thing is, you cannot underestimate the power of wisdom, you know, and being able to, you know, process things. Because when I was a kid, you know, writing, you know, back when, you know, even Prince, back when we were, you know, in my mom's basement. I mean, it was like we were writing silly stuff, you know, and neither one of us had matured in terms of trying to think about, you know, issues. And obviously we were listening to music and, you know, Sly and the Family Stone and Bill Withers and, you know, Donny Hathaway and whoever else was out, you know, that were saying stuff, you know, but we hadn't developed our own, you know, point of view about these things. You know, we were just kind of coattailing with what other people were talking about and saying, you know, till you start having some experience and you start, you know, going, okay, wait a second, I can actually speak from my own, you know, perspective, you know, and you know, and that's where it becomes real.
Are there any of the songs, like any of the early songs, are they like directly predicated from that revelation that we need to write from our view? Like, I mean, I know that Party Up, the story goes that Morris Day wrote Party Up. And you know, that's kind of a, you know, I mean, it's sort of an anthem. It's kind of political. It's kind of, you know, was there, like, I guess I'm trying to ask if there was any particular songs that had come out that you guys had worked on that illustrated this sort of, you know,
well, you know,
that you needed to address issues through your music.
That song in particular obviously was, because that was, you know, we did that. We were on tour with Rick James, and then we had come off tour, and we had a period of time where we had to work on the next album, which was the Dirty Mind album, you know, and we had done it in Prince's house. He had, our manager was this guy named Perry Jones, had found a house in I think it was Orano, and it's funny because I just, you know, my wife had gave me a birthday party, and we rented a house by the lake, right? And when I was leaving, we were going to go to the city, and they had the roads were closed. I think they were doing some road work or something, and so the GPS, you know, had us go this different route, right? And this different route routed us around, and I was like, and as it was going around, I was like, wait a second. I was like, stop. I was like, I used to live there. And it was the house that he had found. It was the house that we did Dirty Mind in and all of that. And so we knocked on the door, and I talked to the guy, and the guy was somewhat familiar. He said he had heard that was the case. I said, no. I said, no, that was the case. And I took him, I said, this is where the studio used to be. And he was tripping. I was like, no, yeah, this is, you know, had no idea.
So that record was cut like in a basement?
Yep. On a 16-track, if I'm not mistaken, 16-track recorder. You know, you can talk to Don Batts because he's the guy who kind of put it together, and Perry Jones, who's, thank God, bless him, is still around. He's, you know, kicking, and, you know, I mean, he's the one who put it together, because we had been out to California, and Philip Bailey had a studio that he had in his house, and you know, we had seen that setup. It's like, why can't we do something like that, you know? And Perry's like, I can hook that up, and so he did. And so anyway, we went back to and he set all of that up, hooked it up, and so really, I more or less engineered a lot of that stuff, you know, because it was just, you know, he and I, because me and Prince were living at the house at that point, and you know, we were writing a lot of the stuff and just jamming and coming up with stuff, and you know, the thing about, you know, and Morris had just, because Morris hadn't, you know, he hadn't really been around and involved, because obviously he was in our original band. But, you know, I had reached out to him because we'd come back, and I ran into him, and I said, you need to come back around, brother. And, you know, because, you know, we got some things going. We were trying to do some different production things at that point. but we were really kind of trying to focus on, because we had to go back out, so we had to focus on putting this next, album together. So, but Morris came and started coming around. I think that's where the Party Up actually, Uptown on the other hand was just something, because we had, at that point, we had been hanging around. Part of what we wanted to do was really just kind of get out. We'd come back, because we'd go out all the time anyway. We'd come back, we'd go out to the clubs, and there was a club called the Fox Trap. I think it was also called the Taste, but it was the same club. We go there and hang out, and we go, to the Riverview and hang out. We go to, there was a few clubs. I don't know if the Pacific Club was happening at that point.
No, but Prince said y'all used to go to the Nakarima. The Nakarima.
Oh, the Nakarima. Oh,
American.
Yeah. No, we used to hang out there.
Nakarima Club. I thought that was so funny.
I can't tell you how many, situations that we got ourselves in that probably to this day, But yeah, no, that was another club. But we used to go to, a lot of people don't know, we used to go to, some pretty, like the Elks, which was like where we used to play.
Yes.
And they used to call it the Bucket of Blood back then.
Right.
Yeah. And we didn't go to I used to go to the Cato. He wouldn't go to the Cato, but that was my brother's favorite hangout. So I would go. That's how we found Sue Ann, because my brother turned me on to Sue Ann and said, "You got to come check this girl out." So I went down there and saw Sue Ann and pulled her in.
She comes through bunkers every once in a while. I'll holler at Margaret and take the mic on. You got the love.
That girl is no joke, man. She is so talented.
She's just bold. She's so bold.
Yeah, she was that. She was back then. She could tell you some wicked stories about young Dre.
Yeah, I bet.
She
was actually my father. She was in one of my dad's classes at St. Paul Central.
Oh, okay, all right.
So she was like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Bland is your dad. Oh, we loved him."
Huh, interesting.
She always loved up on me because she knew my father.
Yeah,
but I was going to ask a couple of things, Dre, and again, I don't want to get too caught up, but two things. If I'm not mistaken, Prince told me that Dirty Mind was never finished. Like,
how do you mean?
Like, I want to say he said Steve Fargnoli took the masters and like got the record mixed. Like he wasn't finished with it, and I do notice. There ain't no like distorted guitar on it. Like there's not a lot of overdubs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, I mean, that was at least what he told me. And I was like, wow, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. But but here's the thing, what wound up happening with it, I have no idea. I just know that we were in the house. We cut a lot of stuff, and I know what stuff we cut. We did demos, we did jam sessions, recorded. I recorded a lot of. I actually was working on an album at the time myself, which I never got back. But but we had recorded a bunch of stuff. So what eventually happened was between him and his record company. I see. But I just know that we had come back off that tour because really, to be honest with you, at that point, Steve Fargnoli was involved, but he wasn't as hands-on. It was more Perry and Tony that were really kind of hands-on.
Okay.
And then they all worked together. But what happened? Maybe he came in, because that was also right around the time where I wound up, splitting because there was a lot of things going on that just I wasn't down with. So.
Well, all right, we don't have to go all into all that, but I was curious just because I know so little about it. Every once in a while, somebody will bring up the Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was going to be like you and Dez and Prince, like
it was all of us. It's me, Dez, Prince, Bobby, Matt, Gail.
Okay, was it like a side project, like an alter ego group?
To be honest, to tell you the straight up, honest to God truth, you know what it was? It was Prince's version or Prince's way of keeping the band sort of off from doing other stuff, keeping them busy so they didn't go out and do other stuff. Because I was probably one of the main culprits because I think they thought I couldn't wait to jump the coop. But but the reality was, I was when I told him, hey, I'm down, I got your back, I meant it, because that's the kind of person I am. If I'm down with you, I got your back. I'm your ride or die. Unless you do something to mess with that, I got your back 100%. And so I wasn't going anywhere at that point, But it was a great project. I mean, we did it in Boulder, Colorado, which tells you right there that he was trying to keep us us way away.
I'm familiar with that play out of the book. We were always
we were secluded. That's where I got introduced to coffee, because we were doing like all-nighters, and because I didn't drink, I wouldn't touch coffee until then. And finally he was like, you should try this, man, because we were like up, and I'm like, man, I'm going to sleep, man, I'm tired, I can't, I'm not, so that they handed me a cup of coffee, dumped a gang of sugar in it, some cream, and I was like, ooh, this is good. This is like liquid chocolate. So from then on,
I see. Wow. Oh, well, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to dominate the.
Please dominate away, Michael.
All right.
I have a few questions, but we'll put them in when we have time.
Yeah, all right. Let me segue. Let me go back actually to, and then we'll leave all that where it's at, and But the way the North Side is constructed, when you check out the history of like the layout of the city,
right?
And you can go to any municipal site and look at the blueprints, see how the city is mapped out. There's a lot of ways to get in North Minneapolis, but there's only one way out. And I always presumed that the city planners did that so that it'd be easier to catch assailants, people who were trying to outrun the cops.
Mm-hmm.
You can get in North Minneapolis, but you can't. There's only one pathway out. I can't remember where it's at. But I guess I wanted to know, we've touched on it already. I mean, we've touched on systemic racism, and we know the truth about the city, and a lot of it has to do with the way the city was planned. Right. There's a documentary that I keep bringing up called Jim Crow in the North, and they chronicle what happened when a black scholar from out east decided to move his family into Prospect Park.
Right.
They talk about it. I just happen to have this book on my coffee table.
Okay.
They talk about it in here too.
Whoa.
You know that book, Michael?
I know that song.
Okay.
Great. That's a great book.
Yeah, I didn't even. It's funny because this is coincidentally on my coffee table. Like, this was not planned as part of the interview. But when you talk about redlining in Minneapolis, this book has a whole chapter on it from a perspective of how that affected the music culture. So I just wanted to give that a shout out to anybody. It's on Amazon if you want to pick it up. I know Andre's featured in here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's cool, man. I mean, you're on subject.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, not only that, but I mean, it seems like you guys were sort of isolated. Like, did you grow up with the way with Spike Moss and all that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, let me break it down. Yeah, because obviously, I was all in the mix, all in the middle, all involved, all everything. Not just me, but my family and everybody. When you understand how it works, because you're right. You're right about how the city planned it and what the city did on purpose. And it's really it's a travesty when you really understand what they did, when you think about the Phyllis Wheatley, the original Phyllis Wheatley.
Yes.
And how they tore that down and built the freeway and cut us off from everything. And that was a vibrant reality down that whole reality was a whole different world back in those days.
They didn't want y'all to have.
No, they completely ripped it apart. And then they took it even further. And, I mean, you talk about the anatomy of a revolution, the anatomy of how to destroy a vibrant community is what somebody should write a book about that, and what the city planners did to the community that, myself, Prince, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis, where we all came from. They ripped it apart. They really tore it up to shreds and said, you know what, we're going to stick a spike like Dracula through the heart of this community. And the first thing they did was they ripped out the community center, the way that Spike had, where we would, that was our hub. That's right. How we got some of our gigs, and how, that's where, the community where, you know, troubled kids would go. My mom had a community center. They ripped that out. And what did they put in its place? A police station. Okay. A police station. It's like, so not only did they rip out what was good and put a police station there so they could be right there and brutalize blacks, but they also put drugs, because, you know, drugs were, there were some drugs around, but it wasn't, you know, it's like everybody knew who the local little, you know, weed dude was, and weed is legal now. So it wasn't even a big deal then. But they put a police station in there to make it a big deal. Threw guns, because there was never all those guns in the community. They threw guns in there, and a bunch of, you know, guys that weren't from the community, they made them cops. They gave them guns and a badge and a license to murder black kids in our community. And then they just brought people from other neighboring communities that they probably knew from different places and said, listen, we're going to give you a place in Minneapolis. You can set up shop there. And then went about just destroying our community. And then nothing against Estes, you know, because I said this before. But it should be out of sight, out of mind, not on the bus line. They got Estes, the funeral parlor, right there like it's a hotel. Like it's
they had advertising on the bus benches, right?
Yeah, you know, it's like it's a Las Vegas tour attraction.
Yeah, like it's somewhere to go.
Yeah, well, it's somewhere you're going to go, because that police station that's a block and a half down is going to help you get there. You know, it's like, please, you know, let me speak on this if I can for a second. I think what we got to do is we really need to reimagine the black community. That should be first and foremost. I think the police have outlived their usefulness, in my opinion. You know, I think that their whole thing is just obsolete. The way they're running, I mean, tanks and, you know, like we have an army. We don't need an army to stop us for our taillight. We don't need an army to stop us, from if we're drunk and we're at McDonald's. We don't need an army to come, and raid with 12 people that come and then all, surround us and beat us half to death or put their knee on our neck until we're dead. We don't need that. We don't need an army to come and stop us. First of all, the black community hasn't had a police station, period. We haven't, there's nobody coming to protect and serve black folks, not in the black community, never has. When we had issues with somebody in my family, and it was they were having trouble. We called the police because, we just wanted them. They came, and the next thing they're breaking down my sister's, literally broke down her door and got, the person that had the issue out, beat him. It's like, no. And we didn't even get a chance. We were trying to, it was just, it's outlived its usefulness. So black folks, they don't even, it's the last thing they really want to do is call the police because, even if it's like, what, we need our own police force. We need just, whether it's just, okay, we need to call, Ronnie and
Ronnie and them, right?
Big Ronnie and them to come. Ronnie, listen, we need you to come. Or they would call my brother. People would always call my brother because he would know who to get. So basically for a while, my brother and a lot of his friends were the police force in our community. A lot of people would come. I mean, he was like, people will tell you, ask about Sonny Anderson in the community. They'll break it down.
That's him. Sonny Thompson told me about Sonny Anderson. Sonny, I want to tell a story that you probably know. Mm-hmm. But I never knew what I understand about Prince's working relationship with Chris Moon. Mm-hmm. Apparently was he an English dude?
Yeah. Yep.
And apparently he was also racist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sonny Thompson told me that Prince invited him to the studio to hear some music he was working on. Mm-hmm. And Sonny said the dude was there and he was, like calling Prince like some racial epithets, and Prince was just taking it. I figure he probably was in dire straits at the time and couldn't really ruffle the dude's feathers because I think he was sleeping at the studio and working there. And Sonny went back and got Sonny Anderson and they came to the studio and the dude said something to, he's your brother, Sonny? Mm-hmm. Said something to him. And Sonny said, I never seen anybody get snatched up so fast in my life. He said, Sonny Anderson grabbed Chris Moon with one hand up against the wall. He said he used the same hand to smack him and then went back to gripping him up. If you ever say anything like that again.
Yeah.
defending Prince.
Yeah, that was my brother. That was my brother. But I don't know about that, only because, I mean, because my brother doesn't do a whole lot of threatening. You just, if he's threatening you, you might want to, you may come up missing. He's gone now, so I can tell you, threaten my brother, you might come up missing. But here's the thing, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about that, and I was around and I knew Chris Moon. In fact, I did some stuff for him as well. I mean, commercial work and stuff like that. And, I mean, he was a different kind of dude. I ain't gonna lie. He had, he had like got in the studio. He had like what do you call it? When you die, a headstone. Yeah, he had a headstone in the studio, and he had like
that is different.
he had a skeleton. He had like what do you call it? That armor, like a knight in shining armor hanging up. He just a lot of weird stuff. Yeah, around the studio. Yeah, he was a different kind of dude, but he was, I mean, he never stepped up with none of that stuff to me, and I never heard him talk to Prince like that. And he was always very, very cool. I mean,
well, something went down that day as far as Sonny Thompson was concerned. He,
I mean, it very well could have. I mean, Sonny, I believe anything Sonny said. If he said it, that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about that because, I mean, I'm just, I mean, I would not be surprised if my brother, something like that happened, because that sounds so much like my brother.
He was like,
my brother was always
his brother. His name was Sonny too, man.
Yeah,
man, he was hard.
Yeah, no, my brother was no nonsense. Yeah. A lot of people in the community will tell you, because he went from being extremely, militant. He was always militant, but he went, and wound up being a private investigator, and wound up, working with, different attorneys, and when they needed to really go into the community, and if somebody was, like, he would always be talking about murder cases. Yeah, I'm working. He'd come by the crib and say, yeah, I was working on this murder case, and I had to run up on these brothers, man. They came out. I said, listen, is this you? You go up to their house. You say, that's you, ain't it? Well, you need to come with me, because I don't want him to have to. He was
all right.
Yeah. No.
Wow, I see.
But he got a lot of people out of trouble. If you were in trouble, people would go to Sonny and say, Sonny, I didn't do it. This is what happened. They set me up and blah, 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 blah. And he'd go and find out what actually happened. And he, him and the law firm he's working with would hold cops accountable, and he would make them, they'd have to deal with Sonny and Sonny, everybody. I mean, people, especially, brothers in the neighborhood that, were trying to work around, had to deal with what they had to deal with. I mean, I think that's what I'm talking about when I say, we need to reimagine our community, because I think things like that, that don't exist right now, need to be in place. I think we need to, one of the other things that we don't have is we don't have structures. We got KMOJ, we got the Capri, we got, the Black Museum right now, we got the Urban League, but I think we need to have like 10, 20 structures that built for us, by us, in our community, and to expand and to reimagine. Think about how you can sustain a community, in and of itself, because it's like not about segregation or anything else. Because anybody knows anything about Black folks are always all inclusive. They want to bring people in. They want everybody to experience, all the good, and so it's like, so we need to create, fund and have it funded. And, and I think really we need to create a system where it's self-sustaining, where it's not, where people can't say, I don't want my money going to whatever. Black folks make enough money to be able to fund these communities within themselves, and it's like, what, let's just create a place, an environment, a community, and let that be, sort of the standard bearer for, for the rest of the communities around the country. Because we got to stop thinking, having other people write our blueprint, write our movies,
Sure.
putting us in the, in the background. It's like, it's not like Blacks haven't contributed, because we have, light bulb, telephone, air conditioner, heater, rock and roll, lawnmower, peanut butter, funk, jazz, R&B. It's like, it's not like we've been sitting on our thumbs, just wonder, oh, what we're going to do. No, we're constantly contributing. That's why, people wonder why Black Lives Matter. We do all that stuff, and then the history books don't reflect what we've actually contributed.
It's a Eurocentric curriculum.
Exactly.
They want to paint it like they're they were the victors, but I mean,
it goes on, and so and so you wonder why people want to say, well, look, Black Lives Matter. We matter, and it's not like all other lives don't matter. It's nothing to do with that. That's why people miss that so much. That it's not about that. It's just that all along, try being. I try to tell people, try being kidnapped from the comfort of your own home, brought to a foreign land, told that you're, half a man, all in 3/4.
There's a reason we're pointing out what should be obvious.
The
social contract don't work for us, and nobody can really explain that one.
And it just keeps, it's just, when you start to really put it in context for people. I think people are starting to understand that, it's just not like somebody's trying to get something for free. Somebody painted a picture of Black folks like we're lazy, shiftless, or something like. Could be further from the truth. You don't create, the first open heart surgery. You don't create all of this stuff, and you're some shiftless, lazy. Not to mention the fact that all the different things that we did to actually build this country. It's just, come on, get real. It's like, I mean. I don't understand, why there's a fear of the color Black or Black culture or Black people. It's like, Black folks don't want nothing more than to just have an opportunity, an equal opportunity. We don't want to go scare nobody. We ain't nobody's boogeyman. Trust me, we would, if you just allowed us to just do what we do, we're just keep contributing, keep doing positive things, and keep being, a pillar.
But that's a problem, Dre. That's a problem because when you defy the plan that the white man has set out for you, the white man defines his existence by your existence. And as long as we maintain this particular position in society, they don't have to question where they are or why. And that's what it is. To challenge the system is to do that. When Black people decide to define themselves, it forces white people to redefine themselves. They don't know what to do if we're not at the bottom rung of the ladder. Which is why you got Black Wall Street.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
There are many, many examples of Black people just being left alone.
Yeah.
Their own devices and working it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And then you want to use military grade weapons against a thriving city that doesn't need anything from you.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. And you're right. I mean, it's just, Black Wall Street. I mean, they were loaning money out to white folks. Helping them live the American dream. It's just it really goes on and on. When you think about it, from that standpoint, and it's just, it's like I just don't. It's just. I just don't get it. I don't get it anymore. But that's why you have revolution. That's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with. Because it's always going to come down to this. Because the reality is, what's been going on is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And it's like, people need to rethink and reimagine and reapproach all of this stuff. And this is where we're at the precipice of doing this. It's like the police have they have been making life a living nightmare for a lot of people, not just Black people, but they're like the bane of. It's like every time you go somewhere, it's like you got to look over your shoulder for the police because they're going to come and they're going to kill you. It's like who wants it? What kind of way is that to live? To think that you're a cop stop away from murder, your kids being no father, or no mother, or no brother or whatever. It's like because of these guys who run around all pumped up, with these dark sunglasses on and tattoos and their sleeves rolled up, and looking like, they look like a gang because that's what they are. And their job.
Call what you see now.
Yeah. And their job is to pin Black people in the Black community and not allow them out. And if you come out, you better have a goddamn good reason for coming out of that that little neighborhood. Otherwise, we're going to beat you down and make you go back to where you came from and never come out again. That's the concept. That's got to end. Why should we live like that? You know, it's like, that's why you're going to get revolution. It's going to always be why you're going to get revolution. And at some point, that revolution is going to get very, very real. Right now, it's just nonviolent. It's because really black folks are nonviolent people. You know, we've been cast, you know, and written in the history and Hollywood and all that, like we're some angry people that we can't wait to just kill somebody. We just like, we got rage in our eyes and we just want to kill people. No, that's nonsense.
No, if that was our modus operandi, we would have done that decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
We would have gone on the slaughter.
Yeah. Somebody said, how will we overcome all of this? You know, Myra said this. And, you know, I mean, let me tell you, how we overcome this is people putting aside, you know, whatever it is. I don't know if it's jealousy, if it's fear, but we have to, basically, you got to vote. You got to vote, and you got to vote in people that understand that we have to evolve. We've evolved to this part. There's people who have the nerve to say we haven't, nobody's done anything. Nothing's changed. Lots of things have changed. Lots of things are constantly changing, and we're constantly evolving. So you have to recognize the changes that have been made, but we still got a long, long way to go. So how we get over this, you know, is everybody, and we're doing it. You know, as you see people in the streets marching, every culture, every color, young, old, putting their life on the line, you know, during a pandemic, because they want change. That's how we overcome this. People have to step up, you know, because if we let this moment go,
right,
you know, shame on us.
Ooh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I want to go back to something just real quick because we've touched on it a bunch, but we've never really gone into it. And we talked about essentially the Black community in Minneapolis and other areas, and about how, you know, you made a really good point about how the police are designed to keep people in. And for somebody who's not from Minneapolis, can you explain the geography of and the redlining and what it means to be from the north side versus some other part of Minneapolis? And then the side question, the house that you grew up in that Prince stayed with you, was that on the north side of Minneapolis?
Oh, yeah. The heart. It was right in the heart of, you know, that's where everything, you know, I mean, you know, it was in the heart of Minneapolis, and everything that really was jumping off in Minneapolis that was about anything all happened from right around there. And a lot of it had a lot to do with my family. I mean, one of the things that, you know, that's important to know, I guess, is, you know, I mean, our family came from the projects, which was on the north side too. But we moved from the projects into this sort of upper middle class Black neighborhood. And, you know, within a matter of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I suppose, you know, we won Family of the Year, Urban League Family of the Year.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's like, you know, that's because, you know, my mom was a single mom, and my dad wasn't far away. He lived like a block away. So he was still involved. It wasn't like I was like fatherless in that scenario. My dad was very involved, and he was very involved with all of us up until we were like, well, I was the youngest. So, you know, they split, I think when I was 10, something like that, 11, something like that. But, you know, I mean, so, you know, it's, you know, I mean, but to answer your question, the way it was set up geographically was you had North Minneapolis, you had South Minneapolis, you had St. Paul, and, you know, that's kind of it when it comes to the Black communities. You had, you know, I mean, obviously there were, you could, you know, in the beginning, that was kind of, the projects, let's not forget that. You know, but that was still, you know, still North Minneapolis. So, but it was spread out a little bit, you know. But basically, they had corralled, you know, Black folks in the areas that were not desirable at the time. Like there was a creek running through that, you know, I think they were running stuff and it was toxic. And I found out later that, you know, I have some sort of, I forget what they call it, parasite or something, you know, on one of my lungs from living, you know, close to the creek. So, because I would play in the creek and creek water and all that kind of stuff, you know, and so it's like, you know, but that's what they would do. They would push Black folks into those areas, you know, and nobody would want to live there because they were, you know, they were spewing stuff in the water, and, you know, and so it was all toxic over there. So put those Black folks over there, you know, if they got to be. At first, it was originally, when you do your history about it, it was actually just tents. Black folks was just in tents down there. it's crazy when you really get into the history of Minneapolis. It's just, it's really sad. It's really sad and it's tragic, but but shows that, Black folks had to fight and overcome these situations and build their way up and build their way up. And that's why I think at this point, we need to build our own structures. We need a playhouse. We need to write our own plays. We need to have a place where, this is one of the things Prince and I had talked about one of the last times we spoke. We talked about all of this stuff, communities, building and not just one building, because it's always like, we'll just build one community and shove everything in that one community center. No, build like I don't want to say Disneyland, but just spread out where you have, one thing here that's an outlet, one thing here that's an outlet, our own government center where you can have, aid, legal aid, daycare, things that, different things that, are really specific to what we haven't been able to have addressed, schools that are actually not underfunded, but that are funded properly, and programs that, give people an opportunity to go to, education and higher learning facilities. And, there's so many things that should be done, that can be done, that what we have to do is devise our own way, our own strategy, like a pipeline between all of these different, I don't know, the NBA, I've been saying this for a long time, the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, tennis, where they automatically say, listen, in order for us to be involved in this, part of you as a corporation need to fund these organizations and these communities, period. Yeah. No, not coming out of my check. I mean, I'll do it too, but you need to, if you're going to exploit us the way you've been exploiting us, you need to give to our communities so that our communities can thrive, so we can continue to produce talent that you can continue to exploit if that's what you want to do. But give us an opportunity, to not always have to come straight out of gunfire, to go into, a basketball program or a football program or any of that. Because there's people that I know that could have been scientists that were on the street. Because I was, look, I ain't gonna lie. I was, like you're talking about my brother Sonny, I was pretty much in the street and very, very dubious character when I was growing up, which is part of the reason why Prince wanted to come and live with me. I think, it had a lot to do with that. But, but when I think about all of that stuff, it's like I knew people that could have been, scholars, they just didn't have the opportunity. And then they wound up succumbing to street life and drugs and gang banging and all this stuff, because the only opportunities, those opportunities, that's what was there for me. I would have been, if it wasn't for music, I would have been a hustler, a pimp, all kinds of negative stuff, because those were the things that were that was what was right there, every corner on my way to school. I had, hey, Lil Anderson, what's up, man? Hey, when you gonna be a pimp, brother? Come on, roll with me, man. See what life is like. It was like, that was a regular reality for me. Like, no, I'm good. So yeah. Yeah,
well, there you go. Black people can do anything anybody else can do. And that's the reality of it. That's you can't be what you can't see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't see it,
keep you separated, and to keep you from aspiring, to keep your drive at a minimum.
Yeah. Well, that's, it's funny you should say that, because I think that's what's important about Black entertainment, when it comes to Black entertainment. And when I say we should have a playhouse, we should be writing plays about things that aren't always, beat downs, boats, and, atrocity, but about, Cab Calloway, about Miles Davis, about, there can be plays about, Leontine Price. I could go on and on. Grace Jones, it can be contemporary. It could be people who've had struggles, who've had to come, obviously Prince, obviously myself, obviously it can go on and on and on, because people have come from, nothing and had to struggle. My dad, my mom, I could, there's stories in my family about people that just are cinematic, Gordon Parks, that's, well, we're not blood related, but he's part of our family. We call him Uncle Gordon, and it's like, because, our families, he's known our families, it just comes from the same, general, or, had relatives in where I come from is Fergus Falls,
Mhm.
You know, it's just, there's just so many stories, you know, and army stories. You know, my uncle was a war photographer. I mean, it just goes on and on. My dad was in all black army. You know, I mean, there's so many stories. And I think
Yeah.
we do ourselves a disservice to not open up stories to things other than, you know, glorifying gang violence, glorifying this macho image of whatever. Why
Mhm.
can't it be about, I don't know, you know, why can't we have, you know, I say this all the time. Where's our Harry Potter, our fantasy? Where's our Lord of the Rings? You know, where's our Superman? And, you know, other cultures get to just dream of all these things. And the kids look up to that and they aspire. Like you said, you know, you can't be what you don't see. You know, if you see these different things, you know, on your TV screen or in the movie theaters or wherever, you know, then your kids and your grandkids have other things to aspire to, so many other things to look up to, so many other things to want to be and become: violinist, pianist, you know, a writer, you know, or just a dreamer, you know, whatever, you know.
Mhm. Well, they said, yeah, that's why there's so much care taken to separate us from our history.
Yeah, yeah. No, well,
Young
that's,
black people.
look, that's, you know, I mean, I'm not in the business of blaming anybody but ourselves. I'm done with that. It's not
Okay.
they can do whatever they want. We have to do what we need to do to change it, because that's the only thing that's going to change it. I mean, think about it. Nobody's going to come into your crib and clean it. Nobody's going to come and clean, you know, my much need to be clean studio because it needs to be clean. Nobody's going to come in here and clean it. I got to clean my own house.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want, you know, these things to be reflected, you got to do what you got to do. You can't blame anybody else for this anymore. That time has come. Yeah, we got to deal with institutional racism. We got to deal with all that kind of stuff. But we got to deal with that at the voting booth. You know, a lot of people need to understand how the system works. They want you to not understand. That's what you can blame them for, is voter suppression and not wanting you to understand why your vote is important and give you that whole razzle dazzle about, oh, it doesn't count. And then you got people talking about mimicking that, you know, nonsense. Voting counts. You got to vote in numbers, big, huge, overwhelm the system.
If it didn't, they wouldn't try to keep you from doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah. I feel you on all that, Dre. I'm still blaming a couple people, but I understand.
Did either of you want to comment on?
I'm not ready to stop blaming a couple of folks, but you're a little further along. You are evolved in your thinking, man. You're being a mentor right now.
Thank you.
And I hear you, and I'll get there one day. I'm working on it, man, because I really have a heart for everybody.
Yeah,
you know.
Here, yeah.
But
you know, I mean, yeah, because I mean, look, you know, it's, you know, a lot of times people think, you know, because, you know, we think about somebody like Chris Moon or Owen Husney, and, you know, it's like, look, Owen was a Jewish guy, you know. I mean, but I thank him all the time because, you know, you can say what you want, and Prince had his issues with Owen, but, you know, Owen is the guy who actually made things happen for us, you know. And it's always easy to say, you know, this would have happened anyway, or that would have happened anyway, you know, but it didn't happen though. You know, Owen came and, you know, I mean, I know that a lot of people said they were going to do this and they were going to do that, and it didn't happen though. And he came and had a plan, and, you know, so I will be forever in his debt, you know. And I know what, you know, I know everything. You know, the thing about me, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, is I was always there for everything. I know how everything, you talk about knowing how the sausage was made. I know how the sausage, knowing where the bones were buried and all that. I know all of, you know, I know almost too much when it comes to the evolution of what happened, you know, with Prince and myself and, you know, Morris and, you know, Jimmy Jam. I know stuff that some of those guys don't even know. Brown Mark and all of those guys, you know, Matt Fink and all of those guys, and how people got in the band and all that, you know. And, you know, I know too much, you know, because obviously me and Prince were best friends. We started off together, you know, so it's like, you know, I mean, so obviously I was there helping put these things together. And I'm not trying to take credit, because I could care less about taking credit about anything, but I got no reason to make anything up. It's like, but I was just there. It was just he and half the time it was just he and I, you know. And if anybody, and you know, anybody who knows Prince, you know, he ain't really saying a whole lot of anything to anybody. You'd have to put that brother in a headlock sometimes to get him to squeeze out about 8 or 9 words, unless he really knew you or really liked you, you know. Otherwise, he wasn't saying mum was the word, you know.
I get it.
American Bandstand is like a great example. It's like, he didn't want to say, he was like going to try to see if he could get away without saying anything to Dick Clark, So anyway.
One thing I wanted to backtrack on a little bit too, when you're talking about inspirations and heroes and things like that not everybody might know of. You touched on one of mine briefly, and Michael did, and also he came up in the conversation a few weeks ago about growing up Black in Minneapolis, which is Sonny Thompson. And I wanted to know if you would be willing to share any stories about growing up learning from Sonny Thompson and kind of explaining who he is and what he's like to the people that might not be familiar.
Yeah, what we're finding is that Sonny is the unsung hero of North Minneapolis. A lot of people don't know what kind of influence he had on everybody.
Yeah. I could see how you could say Sonny was an unsung hero. I mean, Sonny and the band that he had at the time, it's just hard to even really express. One of these days, and hopefully one of these days soon, I'm going to really try to put together the reality of how that really was. Because Sonny, first of all, let me just say it like this. Sonny, is, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Sonny is unbelievable. He would make me, I used to think I was cocky and all of that as a bass player. I mean, there was a time when I was really, I didn't think anybody could touch me on bass. But at that point, Sonny was really playing guitar, and Michael Lewis, Joe's brother, was playing bass. So there was a time where, I could tell, I was like, man, ain't nobody touching me. I was like, oh shit, I walk around like, I'm the bad. That was me, because I really, I would practice 10 hours a day, and I developed a style of my own. I was like, I had listened to a bunch of different people, and I think I was telling you the last time we talked, I mean, I'd learned sax solos and trumpet solos because I was a saxophone player and trumpet player. So right. I would learn stuff different. It really took, what I did extremely serious, But Sonny just took it. He was when he got on bass, it was just a whole nother thing because he played guitar, he played bass like he played guitar, and so that style, was just a different kind of, it's very unique. And, and at that point in time, what we used to do back then was we used to really, musicians used to take themselves extremely serious, individually serious. It wasn't like we were trying to copy anybody. So, and that's why, I mean, in some ways I get a little bit salty when people talk about, the bass and the Minneapolis sound and bass, because, I really took what I did and what I, developed as a bass style. I took it serious. And to just have it sort of ripped away and said, oh, he did that. It's like, and that's why I just stopped playing bass, because I was like, you know what? And that's, again, I'm guilty of doing what Black folks do very often. It's like they come up with stuff and then they just walk away from it. But
oh boy.
But Sonny, getting back to Sonny, because I used to go, just me personally, I used to go see, they were called Back to Black, back in the day, and then they became the Family. But I used to just go see them. And then me and Prince would go see him, and then me, Prince, and Charles would go see him. Then me, Prince, and Morris, the band would go see him. Anytime, but a lot of times we'd be playing with him or opening for him,
Okay.
But it was just insane. But to be honest with you, I would watch Joe, because I'm, I don't know, you might not know this, but I play drums,
I presume that you did, because everybody.
Right.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I used to think I was the bass on bass.
Like you used to hit.
I used to think I was the bass on the drums.
All right.
Until Morris. Until Morris stayed.
Morris is nasty. A lot of people don't know.
That's true.
Morris retired me, from thinking I was, I could drum. Well, but watching Joe, I don't know if you ever seen Joe Louis play.
I haven't.
Oh man. Oh, I mean, it's like a dream. It's like a dream watching him play, because, first of all, it's like he floats. It looked like he would just be floating on like his whole drum kit, because he just had a groove, and you'd hear all this stuff coming out. It'd be like you'd hear all these licks, but it was just, he never cracked a sweat, and his fro would just be like, yeah, that's right. His fro would hardly ever budge, and they they would just bump up on a groove that just would just shut the house down. And I was like, I might have came there thinking I was going to hook up with these girls and whatever. All of that went by the wayside when those guys started playing. I was like, forget about the girls. I'm watching these guys do what they do because they do it better than anybody else. And the thing is, my cousin was like he was another one, Tedros Saluki, which back then he was Teddy Carnett. Played in Midwest Express and played, I think, in Prophets of Peace. I forget. He played a bunch of those different bands. Maurice McKinnis. He was like, that was like my entree into. That's how we even knew how to even rehearse. Because I would watch him rehearse. This was back before I was still playing trumpet and living in the projects. So it's like so when I got to put in our band together, it was based on what I saw from them. And Tedros is like, we might do a thing if we can pull it together, if coronavirus allows, and people realize that they need to wear their masks. Because if people do you like going to football games? Do you like going to the basketball games and the baseball games? Yeah. If you do, wear your mask, because otherwise you ain't going to none of that stuff. You're going to be watching reruns till the cows come home. So wear your masks. People who sitting around, I'm not going to wear my mask. Then you ain't going to be watching no new games, period. You ain't going to be watching no tennis. It ain't going to happen. What does it take to get people to understand? Does it take, if you're so tough, you're such a tough guy, you're not going to wear a mask. Tough guy, you're not going to watch your tough sports, okay? You're not going to watch your tough football game. You're not going to watch your tough basketball game. None of that stuff is going to happen until you wear a mask, period.
Listen to Gray now.
Yeah.
Listen to Gray.
I don't even know. Well, I don't need a mask. I'm in my bubble. Yeah.
That's right, man. I personally don't understand it. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
Somebody posted something on Facebook today I was reading. It was Matthew Griswold talking about he had a mild altercation with a dude in line at like Target or somewhere. The dude comes up to him asking him, "So do you wear that mask because you live in fear?" Like he baited him with the question. Like he front loaded the question to first off emasculate him for wearing the like he didn't really want to inquire. He wanted to just tell him what he wanted to tell him. And for some people that's like, if you have a mousetrap and you put cheese on it and you ask a question like that, that's like stepping on that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's like, come on, really. I mean.
Yeah. So he kind of zinged the dude, and the dude went on his business. They threw him out of the Target, but he felt bad about it later on. And I'm like, man, if somebody comes at me like that, like I suppose you can take the path of of peace and love and just say, I'd rather not have that discussion, sir. But if you're coming out the gate like that, man, I'm gonna draw the line, and you're gonna see it. Yeah, I'm out for all that foolishness. Yeah, no, it's like, and I'm being facetious by saying that automatic reaction would be angry because I said that's not, so just let me be clear about that. But it does become ridiculous. It's like, look, it's hard to engage. I would engage, me personally. I would engage because I would try to see if I could make them understand why it's essential that you wear a mask. But some people, again, like I always think about my brother. My brother was one of those kind of people that, if you come to him the wrong way with some ridiculous stuff like that, you might get checked real quick. But look, it's absurd. It's just, somebody just put it, I forgot what it went away, but mask it or casket. I like that. Yeah. But it's like, but it's true. I just, it's just for people who are trying to do the right thing. Because just think if we had done the right thing but we got leadership, that's just, think about it. I don't know how deep off into that, we can get, but think about it. You can go, you can do what you want. I personally, I think of Trump as one big distraction, and I don't even like going there personally myself because
I don't either.
Overheated. But you say what you got to say. Right. Man,
I agree, but here's the thing, I will say this. It's like, you have to ask yourself the question, what kind of issue do you have to allow this man to ruin your life, to ruin your livelihood, to put you and your family and your future in jeopardy, to put our country in jeopardy? Think about it. Everybody told you, first of all, he's a game show host. Okay, we know that. He was a game show host to begin with. So now he's president. Everybody told you he ran all his businesses into the ground, and they ended in bankruptcy, and lawsuits. Okay. So now he's going about the business of doing the same thing with our country. Sure. It's just larger, except, obviously, it's like the only thing that hasn't happened yet is we're not at a big giant war. But think about it. Pandemic, the country is closed down, race riots, everybody around the world hates us, and then our elections are now we don't know whether we're coming or going with elections because there's Russian interference, and it's all because he owes them billions of dollars, and everybody knows it, really, but nobody really wants to say it. And then you got the Republicans who are enabling him to just completely, fly in the face of laws and be above the law for what I do not understand, because it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, at what point do you not go, okay, you know what? We messed up, and I don't know what would allow you to let somebody do this to you. You would never let anybody come in your house. He's basically come in your house. He's had his way with your wife, your daughter, your kids, and he's just taken all of your stuff, ripped your underpants off and said, and then left. So it's like,
and then roll out.
Yeah. So it's like, and that's what you're happy about that, and you're going to vote for that. That's what you want, because you think somehow or another he's going to tell those black people and those people of color, you guys are, meanwhile, there's a big giant Black Lives Matter in yellow print right down Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not happening. We're not going back to Africa. When we got kidnapped, Africa got brought here. Face it. That's not going to change. We ain't going to, there's no big ship, no big boat, no, Houdini or whoever else ain't going to wave someone and like, presto. No, it's never going to happen. So just get over that, move on, and evolve.
So there was a summit a few years ago in Russia that a number of high-profile Republicans went to with Trump, and I've definitely heard, rumors that there's something must have happened at that summit to have allowed him to have some sort of something on those Republicans. That's the only reason. Because while you raise a good point, why else are people not standing up to even the Republicans? Why are they? Because at some point we all lose, even them. When things are getting destroyed to the level that they're getting destroyed, it's going to take centuries for this country to come back, if it ever comes back. Mm-hmm. And there's no amount of money that you could make in the world to make that worth it.
Well, that's you thinking that. You are a conscientious person. You're somebody who cares. You have a heart. You have compassion and empathy for other people and for the future of this country. Other people might not share that sentiment. And I think the reality is, I think they've been broke off some major money, in the forms of, we live in a contract culture. What people need to understand, that people don't seem to understand, we live in a contract culture. Everything is done with a contract, and people need to understand how contracts work. They work where one American owns a company or a corporation, and then they hire the cheapest labor they can get from any other country. So then it's legitimate. Okay, that's what I call contract culture, and so that's what a lot of those entities, a lot of those politicians are dealing with, contracts. So they can contract out stuff from other countries and get paid through the roof, and that's what they're doing. Let's just face it, that's what they're doing. And nobody's going to talk about it. They should be talking about this on TV. They should, on network news, these news TV shows, because that's what they are. They're really not real news. I hate to call them fake news, but, if you don't want to be fake news, then deal with real news. They touch on real news, and then they get off into, conjecture and just BS, but just deal with reality. Some people do it, but a lot of them do not. And we need, look, we're grown people. This is our life. This is our moment. This is, it's like, we look back in the history books because it keeps coming to the point where the history books are going to shine a real bright light on what we are doing right now. Who's sitting this one out, who's getting involved, and who's saying whatever. It's going to be, the history books are going to, this is going to be a pivotal moment either for good or for bad. My goal. It's my goal to make sure it's for good. Because I got kids, I got grandkids, and it's like, it's all about them. It ain't about me. It's about them. And it's about your grandkids. And it's about your grandkids. And it's like, because it's, look, I did what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep doing what I do. God bless. I can do it for a long time. But it ain't been about me for a long time as far as that's concerned. The record business has been dead because the record business got sold out. Record companies sold musicians out. Yeah. People don't even understand that. That's a whole nother subject of.
We're going to have you back for that.
Yeah. Because, it's like, please, how, I'm like, oh, God, how people can. Anyway, yeah, like you said, that's a whole nother conversation. So.
Wow. Go ahead, Dre. I'm listening to you, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, I could keep going. Look, I'm gonna touch on that just for a minute. Because we're musicians. And this is our livelihood. This is what we did. And Dan, don't think I didn't peep out what you do, man. You were killing it. Y'all, I don't know if y'all know or you do know. This dude is killer on the organ, on the keyboards, man. Just killer, slay. Murdered. Like, I was listening to it and I was like, oh, I had my wife listening. We were bumping it, because of course I have a system that just happens to be way over the top, but that's why I like to, I listen out in the yard and we was just bumping it, but anyway, and I ain't got, I think Mike knows what he does. He kills it and everybody's seen you and knows the history, but the music business is just, it's like, especially now in a pandemic, it's like, does anybody ever stop and wonder how do musicians actually make money? When you think about, you think about, and then do you ever wonder why, what you hear on TV shows and in movies are always like old songs from the 70s? It's because copyright. It's like, it's such a scam.
Sure.
And musicians are being scammed. And do you ever wonder why there's just a little handful of like 10, 12 artists that you hear on a regular basis? Do you ever wonder why they feed you this narrative until people regurgitate that you still got to have Huggy prints around your waist in order to get signed to a record deal, because you got to be that naive to sign some of these contracts. It's like, please wake up. As artists, I think I'm maybe I'm just tripping or whatever, but I'm better than I've ever been. As an artist, as a writer, because I'm bringing wisdom to the equation now. I've been through some stuff. I've seen some stuff. And so I can write about some stuff. I couldn't write Black Man in America when I was a teenager. I could only write that now that I've seen and can comprehend the real context of all of these different things that are going on. I couldn't write Our World Is on Fire as a teenager because I can comprehend and put it in context, all these things that are going on. I could foresee all of this stuff happening because I have wisdom now. I see it through the eyes of people that I've experienced, through fans that, interact with me on a regular basis, through people, and if I might, I just want to take a second to give a shout out to a brother who, who we lost today. He had a battle, and, I just want to send a shout out to Kenneth Noel. He is an administrator. He's just a music lover. He loves your stuff. He loves everybody's stuff. He's just a really good brother. And I just want to give a shout out to his wife, LaWanda, and his family, his kids, and we really, I really miss you, brother. I really miss you. And I couldn't, do what I do. And this is the reason why people like me, and I think, other folks do it. It's not just not for us. I mean, when you realize, how you affect, potentially affect people in their lives, people like Prince, people like myself, people like whoever, a lot of times, as artists, you can tend to live in a bubble, where you don't really, people don't really infiltrate your world, in a real world kind of way, so you don't really understand how you affect people. But I met this brother, a few years back that had told me about, he was in a wheelchair, and he had said he had moved to California from, I think he said Detroit or somewhere, Ohio or somewhere. And he said that him and his girlfriend had moved, and and they got a place and he got a job, and he said, their favorite song was a song from my album called Pretty Wild Girl. And I was like, oh, cool. He said, because that was like kind of, it's kind of song that he kind of, dedicated to his girlfriend, at the time, that he was living with and moved, from where they came from with. Anyway, he's working in a jewelry store, and the jewelry store gets robbed, and they break in, and and then they wind up shooting him in the spine, and he becomes paralyzed, and that's why he was in the wheelchair. And his girlfriend left and all that kind of stuff. And he said that song always reminded him of that, and it just blew my mind, because I was like, wow. I mean, I just never, when you write songs, you never know how they're going to affect somebody out there. So I just think, sometimes, I really want people to understand how much I appreciate fans and people that are on right now that I can see that, interact with us on a regular basis, and, send me messages. I want them to know I read these things. I read them, and I'm connected, and it means a lot to hear what they think and what they have to say, because we are a big community, and it's important to, to basically have ears, not just in your own world and living in your own bubble, but to be able to use this social media to be able to, articulate what's going on in the world, what's going on right now. That's why this is an important moment for musicians, for artists. They've been supporting this song that I put out and other songs that I put out, because, as far as I know, I'm not on Spotify. And if I am, I'm going to find out and get off of Spotify. I'm not on all these things. I don't want to be on all these things. I don't want to play that game. I'm a nonconformist, always have been. People wonder, it's like, people, I think I'm probably a very misunderstood, person, because people, I read stuff and they say, Prince wrote the hit, Dance Electric. Yeah, he did. And it was a hit, it was a great song, but I always looked at myself as an artist when I did Living in the New Wave, and I didn't think that was going to be a hit. I didn't write that and go, oh, I'm going to write a hit. I wrote it because when they said, we're going to give you $350,000 to make whatever kind of album you want, I thought, oh, I want to make something that nobody's ever heard before. Right. I know that doesn't make sense. I get that. I got that thing. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to be an artist, and I'm going to paint. Nobody's going to put a mustache on my Mona Lisa. I'm just going to create my own little piece of art here. And, but that was, that's then the record company comes in. They're like, yeah, but we're paying you. We want you to give us a hit.
Well,
so,
mean, that's the funkiest song with that feel that I've ever heard. That.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, no. Yeah. Prince put his foot.
Six beat phrase.
Oh, you talking about Living in a New Way? Yeah. No, it's six.
That definitely was an eye opener for me, man. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I was like, I'm doing something all together. If you listen to that album, all of it, Get It Girl is like with the vocoder from Funky Town. It's like, it's just, I just wanted to do something completely different and get away from what I had been involved with. It's like, and a lot of people thought, they just misunderstood that, and I wasn't trying to be, because when I read some of the articles that when they would do interviews, some of the things that I said, I was like, oof. I just, I didn't know how to do interviews back then. And so I always put my foot in my mouth. I didn't really know how to do a proper interview, to be honest with you.
All right.
Until I met Adam Ant, and I had done his record, and we had gotten to be really, really good friends.
Which I didn't know you worked with Adam Ant.
Oh yeah, I produced one of his albums. Yeah.
What?
There's an album called Manners and Physique. We had a song called Room at the Top. Yeah, Room at the Top. Went to either number 1 or number 2. It was a smash.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, but we got to be really, really good friends. And
he's too young. You don't know who Adam Ant is.
No, Adam Ant is an amazing artist, amazing dude. I was
going to say, what was he like as a person? Because the videos portrayed him a certain kind of way.
Right. Well, they're not far from who he was. I mean, Adam was a historian. I mean, he was a learned, educated, very knowledgeable, studied Russian philosophy, Greek philosophy, everything. I mean, he was just all over the place. I mean, he was just a really, it was just, he was just a blessing to know and get to know and to be friends with. And, and we just used to hang out. It was just comical because him and his guitar player, Marco Peroni. I mean, they would keep me laughing. They keep me in stitches, man, because, they were British. So they were like, it was like almost like kind of a Monty Python kind of thing. But but it was for real. I mean, but they would just, their sense of humor, because I could always appreciate, sort of British sense of humor.
Me too. I've watched the Python since I was like 8.
Yeah, same here.
And all that.
Yeah, and they were like, I mean, they used to crack me. They would have me laughing, dying. And in the studio, because you put that together with the guy who ran the studio, because the guy who ran the studio was interesting too, because I was working in a studio that was run by this guy named Hank Santacola, who was, he was, it's hard to even, I don't even think they make guys like him anymore, he was like, he's like a throwback. It's even, that's why I say it's hard to even explain. I'd have to go into, some character actors from the 30s or 40s, because he's such a different kind of dude. He's a white guy that was like, I think he was from New York, and his dad, for history, his dad this was deep. His dad was Frank Santacola, who was Frank Sinatra's manager. Oh. So yeah, and so when his dad passed on, he left him the publishing to Jingle Bells, to like Merry Christmas, to Happy Birthday, to you name it. He showed me he broke it. It was deep to just go through that whole thing and to get to be friends with him. Because that's the thing is, like, I think, when you start to understand that people are people, you become friends with anybody. And people start realizing if they had preconceived notions about, Black folks, when you just sit down and have conversations with them, you realize that, we got way more in common than we have,
yes, sir.
Than not, and it goes on and on. I was telling my kids yesterday about communication, because I was talking about how important it is to be able to communicate. And I was giving an example that I'd met this gentleman in Japan, and I was out there for Jody's tour. She was touring Japan, and her record was doing really, really phenomenal at that point in Japan. And so we were out there promoting it. I was just there as a producer. But they had come and met us at the airport, and gave us an interpreter and showed us around, all that kind of stuff. And and I talked to this guy who was an older gentleman and his son, and they were promoters, and and we got to talking, and and he and I got to be friends. He was an older gentleman, but we just found so many things that we could talk about. Turns out this guy was, the guy who brought the Beatles, the Rolling Stones to Japan for the first time, and he was like, filthy rich, and it didn't matter. It was just that we were just two men talking about the world and subjects, and we had so many things in common that we could relate and we could speak on. That and every time I came back, he would meet me at the airport, and I didn't know until the last time when I'd gone, and I was going to stay, and I was going to visit some areas in Nagoya and all around Japan. He said he came to meet me before I left and gave me a list of all the different places that I should visit. Right? He said, well, if you go to Nagoya, you should go to this place and visit this place and go to this restaurant and all this. And if you go to Asahi, and or wherever, you should go to this place and that place. Every place that I went to that was on that list, when I went to pay the bill, it was already paid. It was already paid. And I was like, and I wouldn't, no matter how I would insist on paying it, I didn't fight real hard because, Kobe beef is like, but I tried to get, but what about if nope, it's already taken care of. I mean, that was so cool. I can't tell you how much that impressed me.
Japan's the bomb, man. It still is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, but Harajuku, have you ever been to Harajuku?
No.
Oh man. Oh, I don't know if it's the same, but when I had gone there last, they used to have this street where it's lined with bands, literally back next to each other, all the way down the block. Just think about 20 bands, literally next to each other, playing completely different music all at the same time. One band might be doing like rockabilly, one might be doing funk, one might be doing jazz fusion, one might be doing, traditional Japanese music. I mean, it was just, I was like in heaven. I loved it. I loved it. Just
wow. It sounds like Guitar Center to me. I don't know if I could take
exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, right. But think about Guitar Center, except it's a band and they're actually playing,
okay.
It's actually organized.
It's
you can actually go stand in front of them and go, oh, okay. And get a little bit of, some Elvis. So you'd have there was about 2 or 3 different Elvis impersonators. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Wow. All right. Man. You just had that question up for like 7 minutes.
I didn't
address it now or no?
So we can address. Sorry, Cheryl. I thought we were going to get to it, and then we went off on a tangent, and I left it up in case we came back to it.
You can't call it with Dre. Can go anywhere.
Hey, I'm for it. But yeah, let's answer because somebody else asked a similar question too. So but Cheryl was the first, I think.
How do we help musicians? The minute you release music, it's on YouTube. I buy where it's offered, but most folks don't. Okay. That's a good question. I don't have an answer. I don't know that I necessarily have an answer. The only thing I can say, is, people have to check themselves, because we are out here, and if you really care about the art and about music, support artists and support music, because otherwise it's going to go away. Because the reality is, we got family, I got kids, I got bills, and my kids are young, they're in school, and, and it's like, my cousin would say, baby needs shoes. It's like, I mean, it's real, in order for us to really have a real career, to actually have a car to drive from point A to point B, you got to pay for gas, you got to actually have a car. I mean, back in the day, it was different because obviously, you could sign a record deal and, they would exploit you and, you get whatever your 6 to 10% or whatever bullshit they gave you, but you get that advance and you could front, and then, obviously even that was kind of, because you got to pay it all back. And then you got to, people don't understand how the real world works in the life of an artist. Cause, I mean, for a while, I was living, when I first moved out here, paying $8,000 a month, I mean, and that's for the crib. And then when you think about, the system that my attorneys and my accountants put me in, then I got to pay for Albert G. Rubin, which is the insurance. And because they said, well, you're an artist, and if somebody trips, so you got to pay another $3,000 a month for that. It's like, it's when you, and I'm coming from the project, so I don't know nothing about money. I don't know nothing about how this stuff works. So I have to figure out all of this on the fly. So of course you're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake. So it's like, and really they know that. So you're being taken advantage of all the way along the line. Well, and so that's why, they know that young artists are the future, because they're the future, because they don't know that that's what's waiting for them. Right. It's like you got them 3 little years, that 3-year contract, and they get to exploit the mess out of you for them 3 years. And then you become, all of a sudden, well, no, you're not young anymore because you're not dumb anymore. So it's just, anyway, well, how do we
go together?
to get back to the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I just think people have to, support your music, your musicians in the community. And when they put stuff out, support them. It's like when I put stuff out, really 90% of the time, it's not money from me. It's usually going to a cause, like Our World is on Fire is going to Dream Defenders and causes, like that, and different organizations, Sabathani, it's like,
Yeah.
It's like, and when I did Trayvon, the money that I made to that went to his family, when I did, Hot Night in the Neighborhood, the money went to Michael Brown, and they had an organization. Any organization that they had, I would just say, hey, look, it ain't about the money. It's about, if you want to send a place that you know where to send, funds to, send it here, and I would just be just a conduit, because it's not, but, if I do release when I do, because I did an album called The Resurrection of Funk, it's done, just trying to decide when it makes sense to release it, but when I do, and when anybody does, I think what people have to do is just support the music. You know, just pay whatever you want. If you think it's only worth $1 or a dime, do that. If you think it's worth $20 or whatever, pay that. Whatever you think it's worth, pay that. But I trust people. It's like, you know, because it's like, it's not like I got some record company giving me no money. It's like, you know, it's just me, you know, that's it, you know, and, you know, and even doing shows, you know, it's like I got to pay for my band to come out. I got to pay for them. I got to pay for the hotel.
Right.
It ain't easy these days trying to push this up the hill. And so obviously we need help from the community that really can appreciate. Otherwise it's going to go away and you're going to have, you know, little, you know, people who don't know nothing about music just creating this prefabricated music that they program on, you know, Apple Music or GarageBand, and that's going to be your reality. And that's going to get thin after a minute, where somebody's just, you know, just jabbing and you know, creating nonsense over some, you know. I'm not saying that all of it's nonsense. Don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah,
you know,
Billie Eilish wasn't her record completely on GarageBand?
Say what?
Billie Eilish's record was done completely on GarageBand. So talk about a return in your investment.
Wow. Yeah.
I always have to say that's what they say. You know, I mean, you know, I hate to be ever the skeptic, but you know, I've seen a few people who say things and they sound great because they sound like it's a great pitch to get people roped in and all this other kind of stuff. When you find out, you pull back the curtain.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different than that. But you know what? I mean, more power to her. Look, if anybody can survive and make it, you know, in this business, you know, they got my respect because it ain't easy.
Well,
you know, but I just got to do it with the people.
Yeah,
I have a answer to that question too, and you guys have been in the business longer than I have, so you can tell me if my answer is incorrect. I don't know about you, Dre, but I know one thing that's true about Michael and myself is, at least when we're not during a pandemic, both of us still play live quite a bit. And the number one thing you can do to support musicians is to support live music. Right. Go down to your local music venues when there's somebody playing that you want to hear, or even just a new artist that you've never heard of. Pay your cover charge, you know, buy a couple drinks or sodas or whatever.
Well, I'm on the list, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Pay the cover. You know, nobody no favors showing up.
I used to be that way, and I learned my lesson. Now, anytime anybody invites me, I don't ever have a problem paying full price, because I would hope that they would do the same for me. If bands and musicians and artists have merch, buy their merch. Nowadays, during the pandemic, a lot of people are doing, what's it called, Patreons or something like that, where you can perform live, not unlike what we're doing right now, but they're accepting donations.
Sure. Right.
Just anytime you have a chance to purchase live music, it doesn't necessarily have to be by going out and buying the way it used to be. And for that matter, if you still listen to the radio, call the radio stations and request the artists that you like. Support them that way. If somebody does have their music on YouTube and Spotify, sometimes those views help. They don't always translate directly into significant dollars, but sometimes when they are looking to pitch themselves to the next thing, I have X number of views on YouTube, I have X number of listens on Spotify. So if somebody does choose to put their music on those forums and it's actually them, not somebody else uploading their content, support them that way too. If there's a song you like that your friend who's an artist puts out, or even somebody that's not your friend, that's somebody like, even if it's somebody that's, in all intents and purposes, a celebrity like Dre, when he puts out his new song, if you like it, share it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did. Once I found the video, I put it right on my page.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, Patar, what's going on, Patar?
Patar.
Popping in here.
So that's my answer. I
think you're right. You don't go to the barber and try to get a free haircut.
Yeah.
But
you gotta get a club sandwich for nothing. Pay. Things cost money.
Yeah, when you put it in that context, then maybe people will start to understand. Because it's like, people somehow, seem to think that what we do just doesn't cost anything or doesn't have any meaning or no value. It's like, please, people can tell you how much value that, music has, because people are always constantly listening to music. People are constantly going out. Whereas, radios aren't just in cars for commercials. They're in the car, for people to listen to. And the idea that now music is just relegated to a cell phone plan, and whatever you pay for a month for your cell phone, it's just you get free music that goes to record companies, and then they decide what they're going to give to what artists. It's just, that's absurd. That doesn't even make any sense. But that's what's going on, and that's gonna. The reality is, though, in my opinion, my humble little opinion, that's unsustainable. I had the opportunity way back in the day when file sharing and all that kind of stuff and Napster happened. I was met the guy who actually created streaming audio, and I got a little bit of a jump on how all that stuff worked. And so when streaming audio first, or when Kazaa and Napster and all that first happened, I was like, okay, y'all need to nip that in the bud, because I know I was asked at the time to I was asked, they wanted me to be a record executive. It was like, we'll give you your own airplane, your own jet, fly out around the world and sign people. And I just, at the time I had just, my son Ari was just born. And so I was like, no, I just, I wanted to, I'd already, had been touring and doing other things and wasn't around for my older kids. So I was like, no, I just want to focus on this. But so when all of that stuff jumped off, and they used to come to me about, different artists, and, I would basically A&R a lot of stuff anyway, but just because they were friends of mine. But, so when this happened, I called them up because I was friends with the guys who own EMI, Marty Bandier and Charles Koppelman. And I said, listen, y'all need to do something about this, because I had gone on, because I had sussed it out, and I was like, people are getting stuff for free. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And so I went on and downloaded a couple of things just to see how it worked. And I got like a ticket from Warner Brothers saying, Andre, you know better than this. You should be, and I was like, so I told him, I said, listen, I called him up. I said, listen, you need to do something about this. If people start getting music for free, they're never going to want to pay for it again. And he's like, what, there's nothing we can do. I said, yeah, you can. They said, what? I said, you need to corrupt all 90% of the music that's out there, you own. I probably shouldn't have told them that, because now they figured out that all they got to do is license it to Spotify. But anyway, 90% of the music out there you own. So just put a virus, upload your music on there, put a virus on it, so if people download it, it corrupts their files. They will stop it. They will stop it and will not. You can't trust it. And they would not do it. But he said, they said, well, we get sued if we do that. And that would be, I said, well, and so I ran into him probably 10 years after that. He was like, you know what? Should have listened to you. It's like, hey, listen, I can only try to tell you, I can't make you do it. I can only try to give you, benefit of my advice.
If you don't do anything to deter them, they're just gonna, now getting people to pay for music, man.
Yeah, no.
They believe they're entitled.
Yeah. Which that's what this leads to. That's why you can't, you can't, you gotta, and that's why it's at this point, it's gotta come back to people getting involved with artists, because really when you really look at it right now, there would be no Bob Dylan, there would be no Jimi Hendrix, there would be no Beatles, there would be no Prince, there would be no any of this stuff, the way things are now, so people are missing out on all the potential artists and artistry that, that exists because of this greedy system that exists, that doesn't allow artists to be able to be, to flourish, and to have somebody come and say, listen, do your art, do it in a first-class recording studio, where people, and then we'll market it so people can hear you and understand, hey, this guy is on to something. Like, say, for instance, Black Man America. If I actually, the system were different, a lot of people would have had a heads up as to what people are going through from a Black perspective, or our world is on fire. That would have been something I probably would have released on a major label a long time ago. People would have had a heads up on what was going on. And who knows? You never know what, can make people think differently. But but I just think, artists, Joni Mitchell is one of my favorite artists. Who would sign an artist like Joni Mitchell now? Maybe, but it's a strong possibility. And even if they did, would they market it? I mean,
It'd be too much of a hassle. I mean, because she tried whatever she wanted to try.
Yeah, exactly. She's my example of a nonconformist. She is like my favorite artist.
Just when they thought they pinned her down, she'd do something else.
Yeah,
they thought they'd have their golden-haired, folk goddess. Man, she turned the world upside down a couple times. She just went where the muse said to go.
Yeah.
Real quick tangent there. Did you introduce Prince to Joni Mitchell, or did Prince introduce you to Joni Mitchell? Because I know that he was a big fan as well.
Yeah, no. I can tell you how it happened. It was funny because really comical story. Actually, who introduced us to Joni Mitchell was Owen and Owen's wife Britt. Because we were out doing his first record. We were in San Francisco, and they had it there. We were listening to it, but oddly enough, at that same time, we were in California for our very first time. She was backstage at the jazz festival at the Hollywood Bowl, and we were lucky enough because Owen was friends with Pat Raines, who managed a lot of those artists back then, and met Bill Graham.
Yes.
And so we were hanging out backstage, and I was eating a box of popcorn, right? And I'm just sitting there minding my own business, eating a box of popcorn. All of a sudden, this woman comes up and just digs in my box of popcorn and starts munching away. And I'm like, and I look, and I'm like, she's kind of fine, but I don't know. I was trying to think of, okay, what line could I was going through my Rolodex of lines for whatever, but it didn't come fast enough, and she was gone. And then Prince came over, was like, man, do you know who that was? And I was like, no, that was Joni Mitchell. I said, what? And I looked again. I was like, oh shit, it sure is. He said, give me your popcorn. And he scurried over there, but she never came back. She never came back. Yeah, no, but that's, we really didn't meet.
Okay.
But we met sort of through a box of popcorn.
I didn't mean to take you off your story. That was just I've always been curious because I knew that he was a big fan of hers, and then I'm not surprised that you are as well.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean, obviously, he continued because I mean, if you really listen to his album, there's a lot, of influence, Joni influence on on For You, and really obviously the approach with all the vocals and even some of the melodies, you can hear it if you really.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it even intensified more once, Wendy and Lisa started. I think they really released him into that world. Like the three of them, the three of them together were so into Joni. I think that, played they were dabbling quite a bit with Joni's colors during that.
I definitely believe it, because I mean, obviously, because we were riding around San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury and all that, listen to Don Juan's Reckless Daughter and all of that. That was our soundtrack. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just looking at how little time we have left and how much of your career we haven't even touched on. I know this wasn't necessarily supposed to be a discussion about you, and it was mostly supposed to be a discussion about issues, and I think we're doing a great job of that. But I mean, is there any stories or anything you want to share from the between Prince and Our World Is on Fire? Because we barely touched on that segment of your career. So just in these brief few minutes we have left, is there anything in particular that you want to share from that?
I mean, if somebody has questions or whatever, because I mean,
what was it like to be married to Jody Watley?
I saw that. Yeah.
Jody Watley is a very, very talented artist. She can sing her behind off, and in my humble opinion, I always think, she won Grammy Award for Best New Artist, which I think is a very important distinction, because you think about her as an artist, obviously me as a writer, producer, and co-writer if she wrote the lyrics, but I mean, you think about all the different artists that came out of Minneapolis, produced by Prince or whoever, Jimmy Evans, that's the distinction of, winning. None of them won, none of the artists, you name them. No
Well,
Sheila E., whoever, one artist for best new
well,
artist. That's a pretty serious
yes.
thing. But
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but Jody is just, she's got such an amazing voice and such an amazing delivery, and she's such a serious artist in her own right. It just being, it's not about being married, just being her friend at that particular point in time, made me, basically, it upped my game in terms of being a musician and doing some of the things that I needed to do and wanted to do at that point.
Sure. I was going to say, and I mean, just because I wanted to know, because you just got finished singing her praises. I don't want this to come off the wrong way.
Right.
As a producer and a songwriter, did you find that I've noticed as I went through a bunch of the songs the other night that a lot of them were written in A.
Right.
And was that because she had a certain spot in the range of her voice that came out when you put her in that key? Or or was it just random? That's just what happened?
I would say, more than anything, I'd say maybe random, because I would just, it's kind of not that different than what me and Prince would do back in the day. We would just jam and come up with grooves. And then we pick the grooves that we thought were something we either wanted to work on or we wanted to work more on. I just still did the same thing that I would do back then.
Same process.
And if it was a key that she had an issue with, I know one song in particular, Still a Thrill, was something I had written for myself, but she heard it and she was like, she wanted to do it. She's like, I got to do that. I want to do that. And my thing with her was like, well, because she would always clown around with this Grace Jones kind of voice, this low, deep voice. And I was like, well, you can do it if you use that voice. And she said, it's funny how time flies. And I was like, that's it. And I was like, and she murdered that song. That song, that's one of my favorites. I mean, it don't get much funkier. If you hear that version, and then Scott Mayo on the sax, he tore. Anyway, it's just tore it up.
Yes,
insane.
Okay,
yeah.
Are you what was I going to say? No, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, Dre. Which doesn't happen that often. But I had something on the tip of my tongue I was going to ask. Oh, and I was also just going to say, Everything. That song, Everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a masterpiece, dude.
Well, Gardner Cole wrote that song. Gardner Cole wrote Madonna's "Open Your Heart." And Gardner Cole's a good friend of mine. We were in a band together with Mick Murphy and Paul Peterson called Soulmates. Yeah,
what was it called?
Soulmates.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like that should have gone.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sounds like that should have gone. That should have had legs.
Well, it's interesting because we were trying to do that, and then they pulled a song because I had met Tom Jones. Tom Jones had reached out to me out of nowhere and just said, "Hey, listen, Andre, listen, I'd love for you to come by the house and I'd love for you, maybe do some songs with me." So I was like, I go by his crib and and I'm there and it's like we listen to some stuff and he's playing me some things and we're just kind of chit chatting. I'm getting to know him and getting and I'm in his crib. His house was in Bel Air, right? It was like,
all right.
And I kept going, man, what's that smell? He's like, what? Does it stink? I was like, no. It's just the smell that I've never really smelled before. It's just, what is that? And he had like a koi pond, separating his kitchen from his living room, and you had to walk over.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just this. It's just an amazing place. And I was like, I kept smelling the smell. I was like, what is that smell? And he's like, what? You're making me paranoid. What? I was like, I'm just trying to figure it out. And after a while, I was like, I know what it is. After he showed me around, I said, I know what that smell is. He's like, what? I said, that's the smell of big money. I was like, that's what that is. But we got to be really good friends. And one of the songs that we had written, one of the main songs that we had written for the Soulmates was was a song called "Something for Your Head," and it was a song that I had written and we had all written the words to, but I had done the music for, and they wound up wanting to use that for his album, and so it wound up going on Tom's album. So we wound up actually going to Virginia Beach, where Teddy Riley, because his record label wanted Teddy Riley to produce it with us, So we get there and we wind up stuck in Virginia Beach for like I think 3 days, just hanging out with Tom Jones and his son, So it was great.
I was listening. I just had to take that call as it was happening.
Oh, no worries.
Wow, I guess we've actually reached the conclusion of this episode, Dan Spiffy Neuman.
Just about. We got about 6 minutes.
Not really. If you want your wife yelling at you again this week, you got 6 minutes.
Well, my wife's definitely going to yell at me if I don't ask the question that she wants me to ask, which
wrap it up.
Which is what's on your resistance playlist or your Black Lives Matter playlist? Like, what if somebody was putting together a Black Lives Matter playlist? What songs would you put on it from any artist, any era?
Well, obviously, any Gil Scott-Heron, any Bob Marley, a lot of Stevie Wonder, Sly and the Family Stone, and then obviously I write a lot. I mean, it's hard for me to even explain because I have so many songs that are.
Put your own songs on there. Put your own songs on there.
Oh yeah, no, I have a lot of songs just that haven't been released yet that are just I've written. Peace Not War. I mean, I could go on and on just with titles and songs because I mean that's I'm I think I'm a closet case revolutionary, So I mean, but through my music and through my lyrics is where I express myself best, So yeah.
Okay. Did you want to answer that question I put up a minute ago about where do you find the young artists that you work with and mentor?
That's the question was from my cousin. And I just have to say, Darlene, hey girl. I will say this, I've worked, and we talked about it a little bit before. I mean, I like to work with artists that, are just different. And I worked with this Kuwaiti artist. Her name was Lena Shamaz. And she was, Kuwait was, invaded by Iraq. And she was like on the last, plane out before they invaded. And her father was ambassador to, I think, France, if I'm not mistaken. But, I got to know her and did her, recorded and produced her music. And she wrote it. And she was an unbelievable artist. It's hard to even explain because she was singing about her experiences going through that. And as a matter of fact, you talk about Lisa's brother, David Coleman. He passed away, and he's an unbelievable artist. I think he wrote Around the World in a Day, but he wrote all the cello arrangements, and they were just gorgeous, unbelievable, stunning arrangements. And anyway, beautiful project. So I just I'd always tried to do things with artists that had a purpose. T.C. Carson from Living Single, I did a jazz album with him, with Patrice Rushen, James Adugu Chancellor, and Manyongo, and
Love Patrice.
Yeah. So we did that. So yeah, that was cool.
Well, all right. I mean, Andre, you gave us so much to think about, man. You've been so generous with us, and I appreciate. I mean, you. I like your style. You just, hey, man, when am I gonna be on your show, man?
Hey,
webinar. Hey, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do stuff like this all that often, and and I don't know that I'll be making a big habit of it or anything like that. But
you got a lot to say, though, man. I mean, you say it with your music, but I mean, I really enjoyed having you, man. I appreciate you. I mean, I know we live in the same universe, but we never really got to really hang out,
Yeah, no, I know, and I always wish we had, and that's why I'm glad that we were able to communicate, because I think a lot of times, we're acquainted sort of through the Prince thing, but I realize, folks don't really know that much about me that have been involved in Prince's thing. They don't know really. They didn't know much about me other than probably what they heard. Probably what they heard was probably bad.
I just know the clear pants on Saturday Night Live. What I know.
That's
like,
bad. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy who wore the clear pants. There's
the clear pants. He's the brother with the clear pants.
There's a little more to it than the clear pants. But hey, but I ain't gonna say. I ain't gonna sleep. The Clear Pants, they got a lot of attention back in the day. So they
Hey, whatever it took, man. And also before we adjourn, Kelly's Eyes was my jam when it came out.
Yeah,
I was into it.
Yeah, no, that was a great song, and Kelly was a great inspiration. She was a really cool person.
Oh, that's an actual person.
Oh yeah, she's married to Giorgio. She was in The Mask.
Giorgio, how you going there?
Yeah, she was an actress in The Mask, and she was in The Kids Under the Stairs. And
I didn't know.
Yeah, good friends with Vivica Fox. I mean, I knew Vivica when she was still Angie, and I could go on and on.
All right.
Yeah, she's in that picture. There's a picture of me, Jill Jones, Prince, and then there's another girl who's standing there. I don't know. They show it on. It's always on Facebook and online all the time. But when you see that we're all standing in like in a corridor, she's in that picture.
Okay, yeah. I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah,
Andre was hot in those clear pants.
You know what? I really was. I mean, I would go on stage weighing about 150. Yeah, I would come off weighing about 115.
Soup in those pants,
and they would literally steam up. So yeah,
I bet.
Well, I feel like we barely scratched the surface. So as far as I'm concerned, you have a standing invite to come back whenever you want.
Absolutely.
And absolutely enjoyed talking to you. Michael, why don't you let them know what we have coming up next week?
Well, did you talk to him? Did we confirm?
Yeah, everything's locked in if we want to go ahead with it.
So we're going to have the illustrious Dr. Joel.
Well, we're going to do it.
Dr. Brown next week?
I believe so. Next week, if everything goes according to plan, will be a double hitter. We're going to have a special time and start early. We'll start at 4 p.m. Central.
That's right, man.
And
in the evening, we're going to do a regular show with Maya.
There she is right there.
Oh, yes. Maya Rye.
If you want to let us know a little bit about both of our guests coming up.
Oh, who, me?
Yes, you.
I can't tell you anything other than I can't tell you anything you don't know already.
Well, tell them that they don't know. I mean,
I've had a lot more interaction with Joel.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about Maya? I'll talk about Joel if you want to.
Okay, you talk about Joel first, and I'll say a few words about Maya.
Well, Joel is I believe he's from Jamaica. He lives in the United Kingdom. He seems to be. I got acquainted with him just from his Facebook page. He was dropping so much knowledge and asking so many illuminating questions about everything, from just like Christian theology to just matters of just social matters. He just seems to be vibrating at this different frequency. I just something about where his head's at just opened things up for me. I don't know how to explain exactly. He's just very poignant. I can tell he's a disciple of James Baldwin. He's well read, he's astute, and he's asking a lot of really important questions in this day and age. Like what I want to get into with him is the possible not the Reformation so much, but there's a lot of consternation now about like ripping down statues and whatnot, and a lot of people talking about white Jesus used as an oppressive tool to enslave people and to make people of color more comfortable with white people lording over them, and just the history of that. He's asking a lot of questions, and he's given some real interesting answers also. I'm excited to talk to him. I'm excited to talk to Maya. Now tell me, how come I'm excited to talk to Maya?
Well, we first found out about Maya during Tiffany's episode. Tiffany shouted her out as she was a brand strategist and I believe a legal strategist that helped Tiffany get her brand together. Mm-hmm. And she's a Black woman that's very, very active in corporate America and consulting to corporate America. And I believe she does stuff all over the world in consultation with both that type of strategy work as well as diversity training. And she's very passionate about how to I can't think of the word for it, but in terms of how people can be allies and things of that nature. Sure. So we'll have a very interesting conversation with her as well. And like I said, we're going to start at 4 p.m. Central, go for 2 hours with Joel, and then we'll take a break and we'll come back at our usual time, and we'll have 2 hours with Maya. And I'm
a double header next week.
And
a twofer.
And man, I'm excited about it, and we've had a lot of great, as expected, as should have been. We've had a lot of really great feedback this week. It's been an honor to talk to Dre.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely grateful to have him here. And you know, anything else anybody wants to say before we close?
No, just thanks again, Dre. I hope we can do it again, man.
Hey, thank you. My pleasure. The only thing I would say is wear your mask, you know, social distance, you know, because it's important. You know, we have to really get on people's case about this, you know, because I want to get back out there and perform.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do what we do.
You need to get that band out there, man.
Yeah.
Do some things. Without question.
Definitely. I mean, anybody that doesn't believe that coronavirus, COVID-19 is real, send them to me. I was in the hospital for a month, including 10 days on the ventilator. So,
really? Are you serious?
Yeah. What'd you say, Michael?
Coma for 10 days.
Yeah.
What? I didn't know that.
And I was not considered high risk. I didn't have any risk factors or any pre-existing conditions or anything like that. This was back in March. And so anybody, you know, we had our last episode was about COVID-19, but we didn't really have a chance to talk about the medical side of it. Maybe we'll get to that in the future at some point. But anybody who's looking for somebody who's a testimony from it, who doesn't take it seriously, I'll tell you what it was like in the ICU so that you'll take it seriously. How about that?
Did you talk to DeMonica Fly yet about it?
She said she was going to call me, and then I haven't heard anything from her yet. But if she's watching,
call Dan. Dan will tell you all about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
well, all right. Well, join us again next week when our guest will be Dr. Joel and Miss Maya Rye.
Thank you again so much, Dre. It was just an honor having you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, brother. Take it easy.
All right. Take care. All right.